Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondin and I'm the author of Twin Flame Romance, The Journey to Unconditional Love, available in paperback, Kindle, and Audible books. If you buy this book, read it, leave a review on Amazon, take a screenshot, email me at michellefondinauthor@gmail.com. I will gift you an Audible copy of Chakra Healing for Vibrant Energy, exploring your 7 energy centers with mindfulness, yoga, and Ayurveda. If you're new to my channel, welcome! Thank you for subscribing below. Click on that bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. Give the video a thumbs up. If you're interested, I do readings. I do 30, 60, and 90-minute twin flame readings. I also do personal readings on other topics. I do regular romance readings, career, health, wellness, general, whatever it is. And now, during this time, if you're watching this video on March 24th, 2020 or beyond for the unforeseeable future, I'm not really sure at this point. But as long as we are on self-quarantine and lockdown, every person that books a reading with me, each week I'm going to donate $5 for a 30-minute reading and $10 for a 60 or 90-minute reading to a charity for the week. Now this week, the charity is feedingamerica.org. The link is below. And I'm going to donate for as many readings as are booked. I'm going to donate $5 for the 30-minute readings and $10 for the 60 and 90-minute readings. I book up to 12 readings per week, so that means up to $120 donated to the charity that I designate each and every week until this quarantine is over. And there are so many people out there that need your help, you guys. Even if you have very little to give something. Today we are talking about helping your divine masculine, especially if you are a divine feminine in a female body, especially, not all. And the reason why I say especially is because women, generally speaking, okay, we're talking in general, we're not talking about everybody, but in general, women are designed to be nurturers and caretakers. Now, the reason why we're treating this topic today is that I do readings, and so I talk to many of you guys. Through the readings, and when a topic comes up that is reoccurring, it's often a signal to me that it's time to treat that topic in a YouTube video, because that means in the small sampling of people that I experience through readings, if a topic is very, very repetitive, it generally means that it's happening with a lot more people than what I see. And one of the things that I've been seeing a lot is this desire for the divine feminine to help the divine masculine in their trials and tribulations and whatever they happen to be dealing with. And it's almost like this need, this desire. I gotta help my DM. I've gotta help my divine masculine. I've gotta help them push through, overcome these obstacles. I need to do this. The guidance that's really given to you, usually through these readings, divine messages, is that you really don't need to help them. And it's almost against the grain of reunion in a twin flame connection, or really just any really healthy relationship. It goes against the grain. Here is why. Because oftentimes the help is usually, in many cases, enabling. It's more of a not trusting that your divine masculine, your person, is strong enough or brave enough or resourceful enough to be able to resolve their own deepest, darkest problems. I often hear this when, for example, a man, and like I said, I'm overgeneralizing here, and the reason I'm overgeneralizing is because In my sampling, this is typically what is happening, and it's not in all cases. I would say about 90%. Another 10%, I mentor for men in divine feminine roles who are catering, if you will, or trying to help their divine masculine in a female body. So, and sometimes it's, you know, male, whatever. But for most, it's the men in their lives who is the divine masculine twin flame is caught up in an addiction or poverty or not, you know, unemployment, not being able to get a job or education, or stuck in a really toxic relationship or toxic marriage, or a toxic family environment where there is an overbearing, and we've talked about this before, divine feminines. For example, a very, very overbearing mother figure. So there has been many different situations that create this toxicity. And during these private readings and coaching sessions, a lot of it comes up where the divine feminine is saying, I really need to help my divine masculine. How can I help them? I really need to help them to overcome these situations. The one piece of advice that I can give to you, now this is obviously through the guidance and also through life experience, and through my own education in reading a lot about relationships. I've studied tons and tons and tons about relationships over the course of the years. And in one book in particular, now I'm sorry I can't remember which book I read this in, but I figured that the lesson in it was useful, even if I can't recall where this came from. But the imagery that came from it was everybody needs to carry their own backpack. And when we think about enabling or codependency or helping another person where it's crossing the line into almost taking away their own personal power, because somewhere inside of yourself, one of two things is happening. Either you don't feel needed, or you feel that they are not capable of helping themselves. And so it's either one of those two things. It's your need to feel needed, or your belief that they are incapable of helping themselves. Now, in both cases, it's wrong. In both cases, it's completely wrong, because your need to be needed must be turned back to yourself, meaning help yourself first and help self-development and self-love and self-worth first, rather than focusing on somebody else. And then the second thing is, if you have your divine masculine at a place where you want to be with them and want to be in reunion with them, but you feel that they are incapable of handling themselves or taking care of themselves, then it's not time for you to be into reunion with them, because they need to find their own personal power to rise up in their personal power and be able to find that sense of self-peace, self-control, self-worth, self-empowerment. And you cannot help them to get to that place. In this book that I read, where it was explaining this concept of backpacks, I really liked it, because the idea is you have your own personal crap, they have their own personal crap, everyone carries their own backpack. Like your personal stuff that's yours, you carry it yourself. Now, when it comes to extra burdens, like extra heavy burdens, where it becomes very challenging and difficult to carry those burdens yourself, then you can embark on a journey where you have others that are helping you come on board to assist you with those burdens that are extraordinary. Now, of course, we just spoke about something like that in the beginning of the video when I spoke about donations to charities, and I said, feeding America, especially during these times. And this is just one example. I know many of you live abroad, and it's not just in the United States. I totally get it. And I said in my vlog video, which I published earlier today, is that I personally believe in supporting charities that are a lot closer to home, because often people think abroad when they think about charities, or in developing countries when they think about charities, when I know that there's a lot of need that's very, very close to home. But in this case, where the economy has nearly shut down and many people cannot go to work, it's not that they don't want to, it's that they absolutely cannot, then part of that burden to be shared is those that can afford it, or those that have the money to afford it, to be able to disperse that toward like feeding them and helping them to stay fed and their children to stay fed. So that's just one example of sharing the burden when the burden gets too large. But other than that, everybody is intended to carry their own backpacks. I really liked that, because for me, being a caretaker and an empath and someone who loves other people and enjoys taking care of others, I was often taking on everybody else's backpacks, and especially the men in my life. I was taking on their backpacks rather than just carrying my own backpack. And what happened was this sense of like the wounded bird syndrome, where I was finding relationships where it was like the wounded bird, where you wanted to take care of the wounded bird and nurse them back to health. And that is the type of relationships that I constantly found myself in. Now, rest assured, my twin flame does not fall into that category. He is very exceptional. He's an amazing person, and I really believe that that was one of the first times in my life that I encountered a man who was not in that category of wounded bird, if you will, that I felt like I really need to help. Like, I need to help them. And if I don't help them, no one else will. And that's a very ego-driven thing, right? Even though it comes from a good place, it's a very ego-driven thing. And so the question remains is that a lot of divine feminines out there were asking like, oh my gosh, how can I help my divine masculine? How can I help them be ready for this connection? And how can I help them be ready to just take on the world in this twin flame reunion? And my answer, and the angel's guidance answer, really is like, there's really not a lot you can do. You can pray for them, obviously. Pray for them. Do meditations for them. Do Reiki healing. Like, there are some things that you can do because of the symbiosis of the relationship, of the connection, even if it's not in a relationship now. But you can do a lot of those things just to help with the balance of energies, the balance of sending them good vibes so that they can gain the strength that they need to overcome these obstacles, overcome these problems, and help to stand on their own 2 feet and just be the person that they were designed to be, that God designed them to be. Usually, if you're trying to carry somebody else's backpack, it's going to sink you down too, because if you're carrying your backpack, and you're carrying your divine masculine's backpack, and you got some other people in there going too, that you're carrying on your mother-in-law's backpack and your children and all that, and then it gets way too heavy, it's going to drive you into the ground. And that's why I really like that imagery. It's going to totally drive you into the ground. What I really believe the shift in perspective needs to be, in this case where you have this inner drive to help your divine masculine, is to shift it to, how can I support them? How can I support them? And at first, the support is going to be mental, emotional, and spiritual. You can provide emotional support for somebody without directly helping them, especially when it's their own backpack, right? It's their own backpack. Like if someone has been suffering from an addiction and they are just drinking themselves to the grave, believe me, I was in that position where I tried to help someone for many years and it backfired. It didn't work. I mean, it helped him come to some realizations, but in the end, it backfired because it really sunk me into the ground. And there are other instances in which someone uses you as an emotional crutch, for example. So in that case, instead of offering them emotional support, what you can do is just pray for them. Like, you know, I'll say a prayer for you that God gives you the strength and support that you need to carry you through. But, you know, emotional stuff, that's probably best saved for therapists, psychotherapists, and psychologists, and psychiatrists. But that's not me. Sorry, that's not my role in your life. It's kind of like allowing them to take responsibility for what's theirs and taking the responsibility for finding the solutions that they need to find on their own. And this sense of empowerment is really one of the major lessons that this Divine Masculine Collective is learning to do and to be. Therefore, as a result of that, the Divine Feminines in the collective need to back down and worry about yourself a little bit more and carrying your own backpack a little bit more, and less about the Divine Masculine journey and how fast or how slow they're doing it and how heavy their backpack is, because you really don't need to worry about that. It's theirs. It's not yours to carry, it's theirs. And if they have trouble carrying their own backpack, then they can always turn to God. They can always turn to their Creator, their higher power. That is what you are actually supposed to do if your backpack gets too heavy. If your personal backpack gets too heavy, you turn to your Creator, you turn to God, you turn to Spirit, you turn to your angels and say, hey guys, friends out there, could you please help me carry this backpack? Because it's getting really heavy right here. And like I said, when there are earthly burdens that become beyond the control, like too much, too harsh, too fast, there are plenty of humans that can help you. And like I said, I gave you the example of the emotional burden where someone is using you as an emotional crutch, or your Divine Masculine in the past has used you as the emotional crutch. Well, what do you need to do? Say, I feel for you. I'm praying for you. There's the phone book. I can't believe I used that term. There's Siri. Ask Siri where the nearest psychotherapist is, or where the nearest psychologist is, or where the nearest AA meeting is, because that is what your job is in support, is just redirecting them to the appropriate people, persons that can actually help them, that takes the burden off of yourself that shouldn't be there in the first place. And if your Divine Masculine comes back to you, and especially this happens in on-again, off-again relationships with the Divine Masculine, if they come back to you and trying to have you take their backpack for them, that means they have not yet evolved in the sense of the spiritual journey, and it means they're totally not ready to embark upon this spiritual journey full on. We're not talking about, like, they might be there part way or halfway or 3/4 of the way, but probably not full on. It's your job to redirect them back to carrying their own backpack. That's really your job, not taking on that burden, not taking on the help, but just redirecting them back to their own resolution of their own problems, right? It's helping them to solve their own problems. I hope this helped you with understanding how you can help your Divine Masculine. So I would say first through prayer and meditation, and even Reiki healing, remote. You can even do remote Reiki healing. Secondly, remember the backpacks. Remember to carry your own backpack. Let them carry theirs. And thirdly, if the burdens get too out of hand, then you can offer support, but not help. And support is sending them to the appropriate person or people in order for them to be able to get empowered, because they have now taken on the burden themselves with the help of the appropriate people that can actually assist them in this. So those are really the ways in which you can do that and offer support, still keep your sanity, and allow them to develop into the people that God created them to be. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on that bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. Give the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video with other twin flames, and thank you so much for supporting this YouTube channel. You can buy a book or 2 or 3. We do a private party podcast on Patreon, www.patreon.com/Michelle S. Fondin to pledge and donate. And I will see you in the next video.